All right, what's going on, y'all? So today I'm going to give you my perspective on whether steroids and TRT are a sin. This is coming from a retired pro bodybuilder. I cycled steroids throughout my time competing as a bodybuilder, and then I was on TRT for 5 years, and I've now since come off. And I'm going to talk about coming off TRT later in the video and essentially going natty. And I apologize for my voice. I lost my voice a few days ago. I think it's a cold or something. So, it's just what it is. So first off, I want to iterate, I'm not one to judge. We're not ones called to judge. So, I'm not calling people out that are on steroids or on TRT in this video. One, that would be very hypocritical of me. And two, everybody has their own journey in life, their own relationship with God. And so when I'm talking about all this is my own personal journey and my own personal perspective on this. But let's go ahead and get into it. So this is something that has become so easily justified by so many people, and so many people claiming to be Christians. There's so many people that, are chasing bodybuilding or chasing powerlifting or some strength sport that PED use, performance enhancing drug use, is very common. And I was right there. I used and cycled steroids before I was a Christian, but, I was on TRT since. And so I was right there and I wrestled with a lot of this. So first off, there's many sins, I believe, that get wrapped up into the use of steroids. So whether or not steroids is the actual sin or not, I do believe that there's sins that are encapsulated with the use of it. So the first one is your body is a temple. So, we're supposed to, train to create discipline, to treat our body with health. And I can tell you guys that steroids, even done in the healthiest, safest, best way possible, has negative health consequences. And to have perfect blood work and not have it, negatively affect your blood sugar, your blood pressure, things within your blood work, you then have to start throwing other drugs at it. Maybe taking blood pressure medication, something else. It's like you're constantly trying to band-aid holes when using steroids. I have coached hundreds and hundreds of clients over the last 6 years now. And I can tell you every single one, even taking a little bit of steroids, there's usually a negative impact on blood work. There's only a couple instances where I've seen someone completely mitigate any damage done from the use of steroids, and that person has been 100% completely vegan. And that's going to be a conversation for another time. But the whole point here is that even people running high TRT or TRT plus over time typically have negative health impact. We're going to get into TRT later in the video. This right now is more talking about steroids because I do think TRT is a little bit more in a gray area. But if you're cycling steroids, I can absolutely tell you you're not treating your body like a temple. And also you're going to be driving your body weight up, which just driving body weight up, whether it's muscle or whether it's fat, is putting extra strain on your heart. So first off, using steroids, you're not going to be treating your body like a temple. All right, so the second thing that gets wrapped up into this, and this is a big one, is pride. If you're going and you're wanting to cycle steroids, you're typically doing it for some external validation reason. If you weren't at all concerned with, some external validation of, what people think about your strength numbers, what people think about your physique, you wouldn't care to take steroids. You would be fine being natural and training in a natural way. I was there, I tried to justify that, I didn't really have my ego wrapped up into it or anything like that. But as you start, gaining a really impressive physique on steroids, you do have your pride gets fed from it. And this is not what we're called to do as Christians or serving the Lord. So this is a very, very dangerous trap that if you're running steroids or considering taking steroids, I would first ask you, why are you doing this? What is the external validation? Very, very, very few people have I met that are taking steroids that seem to have this under control. And even then, I don't know the inner workings of their heart. So it is very easy for this to come from external validation or vain reasons, whether it's on the strength side, like something like strongman, powerlifting, or whether it's on the physique side with bodybuilding. taking steroids and the use of steroids is typically going to feed your pride, and it's typically going to come out of some pride thing, some reason that your pride is wanting you to take steroids to compete against other people, whether that's visually, whether that's in performance. Because if you weren't competing with anybody else and you're only competing with yourself, then you wouldn't care. You would just be doing it natural and kind of chasing your numbers that way. And yes, I know you can then use the excuse, well, I want to see what my body can do, with steroids, with taking kind of the natural cap off of it. And even that's going to be, having your pride wrapped into it. Why not, use what God gave you and try to max that out? All right, so the third one, this is a really, really big one. Essentially, the use of steroids is going to feed your physique or performance becoming an idol to you. This happened within myself. This happens with pretty much everyone I know that uses steroids. It's going to be all consuming. You're going to be, chasing your strength numbers, or you're going to be chasing getting a better physique. And it becomes somewhat of an idol in your life that is hard to give up. When I retired from pro bodybuilding about 1.5 years ago, it took a long time to kind of relinquish my attachment to my physique, and I'm still working on it. You become very, very attached, put your own identity in your physique or your performance numbers, and it becomes all consuming to where it's all you think about, or it's at least it's taking up way too much of your time what you're thinking about, rather than focusing on God, rather than focusing on your prayer life. It becomes very much an idol to you. Now, I want to preface, guys, training and all that is great. I talk about that in other videos on this channel, but training is absolutely great. I mean, we can do that in honor and service to God. But when it becomes an idol in our life, that's where there's issues. And that's where I believe it's a sin, and steroids only feed that. But these are the big three that I've witnessed in my life. The first, your body's a temple. Doing steroids, even doing it the safest, proper way possible, is going to have some negative health impacts. It might not hit you right away. It might be further down the line. Guys, I know people who have literally died from steroids. I know people who have massive health issues now from steroids. Is this stuff that's just not talked about very often. It's more dangerous than what you think. And there is an addiction component, because, while they might not be physically addicting, mentally, you don't want to give up your strength numbers. You don't want to give up the physique. You become attached to it. This is where you kind of have an identity in that, and you're not having your identity in Christ and trusting Christ. So to answer the question from my perspective, yes, I don't believe steroids are something a Christian should be even considering. I personally believe, for me, it's a sin, or at least it feeds other sins that do not take me closer to God. And has only hurt things within my life and within my soul. So I personally believe that steroids are sin. I don't judge anybody that uses steroids. I've got many friends that claim to be Christian and use steroids. And it's very easy to justify, guys. First, it's very easy access now in the day and age we're in to access steroids. Two, there's clinics that give this stuff out like candy. So it's coming from doctors. It's very easy to justify, well, my doctor prescribed it, so it must be healthy, and it's okay to take. Guys, I'm telling you, you've got to look within yourself and be real within yourself, looking in the mirror of, why are you doing this? Why are you taking this? Because I'm telling you, it will feed other sins. If it in itself is not a sin, it feeds other sins. First off, I do believe that, your body's a temple, you're directly impacting that. But then two, it will feed your pride. And you will be looking for, you've got some external validation that you're looking for with it, rather than going within yourself and finding your identity within Christ. So now let's talk about TRT. TRT is a little bit more of a gray area. And this is one that I've wrestled with literally over the last 1.5 years. The reason it's a gray area is because for some guys are hypogonadal, and they literally don't produce tests on their own. In this case, it's a medical intervention for them to have a normal quality of life, not let alone a better quality of life, a normal quality of life. Because some men, due to some medical reasons, are not able to produce testosterone on their own. For this small subset of men, I do believe that this is a medicine. It's okay to take. It's like a diabetic taking insulin. The problem is now is everyone is jumping on the TRT train. Clinics are handing this stuff out like candy. Guys, when I got on TRT 5 years ago, it was after I had been ultra running for a long period of time, and all the endurance running, driving that cortisol up, bottomed out my testosterone. That's when I went and got tested, and they were happy to give it to me. And it was easy to justify. I wasn't going to say no to it. And that's what's happening now. So many guys are jumping on it rather than first off, I've worked with so many guys that either they're natural and never want to get on testosterone, and they have maxed out their natural test and have a great quality of life. Even if their test numbers are on the upper range, they have a great quality of life and they don't want to get on. Two, I've worked with so many guys over the years that have been bodybuilding for years, and then successfully got off of testosterone completely, and now have a great quality of life. There's kind of these scare tactics out there now of like, you're gonna bottom out, be so depressed, all of that. And it scares a lot of guys into ever even wanting to consider getting off. But the whole thing, and where I've been kind of thinking about this over the last year and a half, God has been truly, truly working on me. It's something that has been so cognizant on my mind. There's no kind of logical, secular reason that I should be wanting to come off, TRT. My business is in fitness and health. But I know it's been God working on me to try to regain my natural function. Another thing I've thought about is, the big argument that guys want to use of getting on TRT or staying on TRT is all of our environmental factors now. All the plastics that we use, the crap that's in our food and water, everything's driving testosterone rates down, which is true. But I've worked with so many guys that if they do everything right and max out, kind of living, as clean as possible. So they're taking a great supplement protocol. They're getting proper sleep. They're training, lifting heavy weights with intensity, with proper volume, that it's not overtraining. They're literally doing everything kind of right to max out their T. It works. The other factor, the other side of it too, is even with that, when we look at the lives of the saints, we look at Christ himself, none of them were taking exogenous testosterone. And the reality is going out and fasting, doing water fast for multiple periods of time, or the people living the monastic lifestyle, literally eating practically just bread, they're not maxing out their T. Their testosterone levels, I guarantee you on paper, are pretty low. You go out and you fast for a long period of time, that's going to drop your testosterone. These people were not considered the holiest people we know and we're supposed to look up to. We're not considering their testosterone rates. And even then, God designed men that our testosterone rates do decline over time. So by us trying to kind of maximize our testosterone or optimize our testosterone, in some way, it just feels like we're almost playing God here. And so this is one reason that I'm personally in the process of coming off. I came off testosterone. My last dose technically was last week, and I had been tapering it down for several weeks. I'm going to talk about this on my main channel and kind of do a deep dive on literally how I've been doing this and kind of my plan moving forward, how I'm going to post-cycle therapy off in the best and safest way. That should be out either today or tomorrow. But I personally do believe that if it's possible to regain natural function, I should regain natural function. Another side to this too is, my wife and I are trying to get pregnant, and taking steroids, taking testosterone definitely hinders that. So there's that side of it too. But the main reason for me is spiritual reasons on this. And, I think so many guys now are just easily justifying in their head taking testosterone, and in some ways it's almost playing God here and not using what God gave us. Now, it might be a very real possibility I never gain natural testosterone function back, and then I will medically need it. But as of right now, I don't know. And I fully do believe that I'm going to be able to regain my back. This is me. I know I'm being called right now, and this happens to be in Great Lent. I know I'm being called right now to give this to God, to fully trust God, And this is going to have me completely relying on him as I go through this process. So this is my whole viewpoint on whether I believe steroids are a sin. Steroids, in my opinion, a Christian should not be considering steroid use. And even then with TRT use, it's so easy for people to justify TRT now. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, we've got environmental factors that are bringing testosterone rates down. But even with that, men's testosterone rates were designed by God to decline over time. We weren't meant to try to science our way out of it. In the lives of the saints, the monastics, they weren't considered at all with their testosterone rates. And I guarantee you, after dealing with hundreds and hundreds of men's of blood work who do 1 meal a day, fast regularly, all that, I guarantee their testosterone rates aren't very high, and they're just not concerned with it. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to keep y'all posted on this whole journey, but this is definitely something that based off of me having been a pro bodybuilder and then obviously having been on TRT, I get called out on a lot or asked questions on a lot. So this is my viewpoint. Over the last year and a half, I've definitely felt like steroids are sin, at least for me in my life. But I've been justifying TRT, but wrestling with it. And the wrestling with it is definitely something that I had to pay attention to, because why would I logically be doing it? I feel like it's truly from God. So that's where I'm at. I'll keep you posted on this. I hope this brought some value to you. I hope, if you're considering this, you reconsider. Guys, it doesn't enhance your life. Yeah, you're gonna maybe feel better. You're gonna feel like more of a king in the gym and all of that. But once again, what's that doing for your salvation and for your eternity and your relationship to God? So I hope you reconsider, or at least look a lot deeper into it, because it is so easy to justify now, and it will feed other issues in your life. But I wish you guys well. All glory to God. God bless y'all. Have a great rest of your day.